everyone, my name is Kate Kalthoff and welcome to a Stamping to Share video. Today we're going to use Picture Perfect, a stamp set from Stampin' Up! That you can find on page 140 in our catalog. And it has the starfish right here, and it looks sort of like it's on a beach, but it must be early in the morning because it has that tinge of a new day to it. And then a blank inside. And you'll notice things are a little tilty. I did that purposely. I just like that look for this particular card. And so let's go ahead and get started. In addition to using Picture Perfect, we are also going to use another stamp set that you can find on page 123, and that is Gorgeous Grunge. One of the things I love about Gorgeous Grunge is it has this big splash, and it has these small drops, sort of like a coffee stain, and then it has some really nice dots over here, and they look a little bit like sand, and so I love that. And another thing I use with the Gorgeous Grunge are these long lines. I especially like those to kind of make a floor or a countertop if I ever need to sit something like a coffee cup or something down on my stamped image. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing that we're going to need to recreate this card is Blushing Bride cardstock, and I've cut this at 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I've scored it at 5 1/2. So we'll just take the bone folder, we'll fold towards the score line, and I'll give this a nice press so that it will lie flat for us while we work with it. And actually I'm just going to set this aside for a minute because the thing that we're going to do our stamping with are 2 pieces of very vanilla paper. Both of these pieces are cut to the same, and it's 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And because one of the stamps, the one with the starfish here, is a photopolymer stamp, we are going to be using our Stampin' Pierce mat. So I have this labeled for stamping because I use this exclusively for stamping. I have another mat that I use exclusively for piercing. I'm going to go ahead and put scrap paper on here. And I do want to share that looking at these 2 starfish, it's difficult just to look at them straight on to determine, which one is which, because one will have the more defined look and one will have a softer, more of a wash look. And so just by looking at them you really can't tell, and usually the softer, more washed look will be slightly bigger, but these are actually the same size. And so what I did to determine that is I just stamped both of them onto my scrap paper. So this is the one that I feel is a little bit more of a wash, and this is the one that I feel is a little bit more defined. And so you can kind of see the difference. I'll bring it up closer to the camera so you can see that. This one just has all of the little spots a little bit more defined. So I like to use the darker color with the more defined look, and then a softer color. And you could use anything for this starfish. I just happened to choose, because I wanted it to be really nice and soft, as you can see, I happened to choose the Blushing Bride as my base, and then I put the Tip Top Taupe over the top of that. So we'll go ahead and do that stamping. We're going to take this piece of paper and we're going to stamp that starfish. We're going to stamp the one that is more of a wash first in the lighter color, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and set that, I don't know, maybe like this. And I'm doing it more towards the top because along the bottom I want to leave room for some ribbon. And so and you'll notice there's a little peak on this, just like there is on almost all of them in this set, the Picture Perfect set, so that you can remember that if you stamp your first image down, the second image needs to have that little pick facing the same direction. That will help you determine how to lay your stamp. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm inking up our second one, and again I'm going to take that pick and just make sure that it's facing the same direction, and then we'll just go ahead and over stamp this with the Tip Top Taupe. And there we have our starfish, and it always looks like it's not working when you first stamp it. So just ignore that feeling that it's not working, because once this ink has a second to sink into the paper a little bit, it will look great, I promise. And so now the next thing we're going to do is do our dots. So I'm going to start out with the soft dots first. So I'm going to ink those up with our Blushing Bride, and I'm just going to stamp some of those all across the bottom portion of this panel. And then I think I'll go ahead and I'll bring in this other panel as well. We'll go ahead and stamp this at the same time. Again, it's the same size. It's 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And I'm going to ink up the Starfish in the Blushing Bride first, and we're just going to stamp this along the bottom left side. And again, I'm just noticing where my pick is, and then I can go ahead and stamp the second Starfish right over the top of it. Just make sure my pick is in the same direction. Press down, and we have our Starfish. Then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to stamp the dots from Gorgeous Grunge with Blushing Bride right over the top, and kind of just all along this section here. Then we're going to come in with our dots again, and this time with Tip Top Taupe, we're just going to place a few of those dots just like that, just to give a little bit of contrast in here and have a couple of different colors. I'm going to add just a little bit more up this way. Perfect. So there is our inside panel. We're going to do the same thing with our outside panel using the Tip Top Taupe. So again, just bringing in those dots, and just remember, kind of, always change up the orientation of the stamp that you're stamping with. Just make sure that your dots look different all the time. Otherwise, sometimes you can tell that there's a pattern, and we want to make it look like there's no pattern, like it's just all random. And now we'll go ahead and we'll actually stamp our sentiment. And the sentiment is also stamped with Tip Top Taupe, and we're just going to set this right in here. Kind of nestles into the Starfish, and there it is. So there's the front panel, and here's the inside panel. Now it's just a matter of layering and putting on our ribbon. So one of the first things we want to do is grab a panel of Tip Top Taupe paper. We're going to layer this vanilla panel over the top of that. So that is 1/8 inch larger. That's 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then we can just take our snail, and we'll put some snail on here, and we'll just center this in so that it is nice and even with all of its borders. The next thing we're going to do is add some mini striped Tip Top Taupe ribbon. This is in all of our in colors from 2015 through 2017. And it is a lovely ribbon to work with. It's great for wraps, and then you can accentuate the wraps like we're going to do today with some baker's twine. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm just wrapping this and securing it down with a little bit of Scotch tape. Then we're going to take our Blushing Bride baker's twine. We're going to leave enough to make a bow. So I'm just going to hold my thumb here, and I have enough to work with so that I can make a nice bow. We're going to actually wrap that around 3 times. Then we're going to tie it into a knot. And from there we'll tie it into a bow. Trim it up, and because this is set on here a little bit loose, we can just move it a little bit to the left to get that bow centered just where we want it. Then we're going to add some dimensionals to this panel. As you can see, I added 5 dimensionals, and then we're just going to go ahead and put this onto the front of our card. We're going to slant it a little bit so that we have some tilty borders. And that is just gorgeous. And then for the inside panel, we're going to put that on with a little bit of snail just along the top of that panel. And we are going to slant this one too, but in the opposite direction. And now we need to go ahead and add some bling. One of the new products that Stampin' Up! Added to this catalog is our metallic enamel shapes. So you have it in gold, as the front of this package shows, and then behind that you'll find silver. So we're going to use silver, and we're just going to put on a few of these dots. It's sort of like vibrant dew dots on our creation here. So we're just going to pull off 3 of these and just layer those on. And we just are using a paper piercing tool to get it right where we want it. And so here's the card I've just created for you. Isn't it gorgeous? And then here's the card I had done in advance. So thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate you. I'm so glad you stopped by. If you need a demonstrator, be sure to visit my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.